What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today is a video where I'm doing something that's super exciting. I got a Dobinson's 4x4 Snorkel that I will be installing on the truck. I've been looking for one of these things for a long time, so they're finally back in stock. So today we're gonna go ahead and get the Snorkel installed. Obviously, the Snorkel will help with air filter issues and also with being able to get the truck under some pretty deep water and not having any of that get into the motor. So without any further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get the Snorkel installed. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to install our little bolt screws into these holes here. They give you 6 of these. You really only need 5, but they give you 1 extra. What these are gonna do is these are just gonna screw into here, and then you're gonna have another nut that goes onto it once you get it onto the truck. So they want you to add a thread locker on there. So I'm using red thread locker, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put it on the little bolts here, and I'm gonna put them in here and go ahead and install them. Then I'm gonna take an Allen key and I'm gonna get them tight. Do not over tighten them. That's one thing they were pretty adamant about. So I'm gonna put this on here, then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so now that I've got all of them in there, I'm gonna go ahead and use an Allen key and tighten them up. All right, okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do while our thread locker is doing its thing is they give us this piece of rubber here. So this piece of rubber is only for the pre-facelift models of the 4Runner. So an 05 and older, but what they want you to do is they want you to sit this on here, and this is acting kind of as a filler. However, it does not line up. So you see these holes here, these holes are supposed to line up, and you see, if you can see this far, this hole does not line up. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead, cut these knobs off of here, line it up, mark it the way that I want it, to where it's flush along the edge and not showing, and then they want us to use an adhesive and basically glue this thing on here. So I've got an adhesive, so we're gonna put the adhesive on here. After it's fitted up, slap this thing on, let that cure, and then we're gonna go ahead and install it. So you can see this is all the excess that they got hanging off of the edge. We don't need any of that, so I'm gonna go ahead and line this up correctly, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off. All right, and all I'm using right now, honestly, is just really strong Gorilla Glue. So I'm gonna use this on here, and we're gonna go ahead and get this sealed up. All right, so we've got this on here. I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and install it. Okay, so while we've got our adhesives setting on the Snorkel, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take out this fender liner up here. I'm just gonna pry it down. I'm gonna try not to take it off all the way, just so I don't have to reinstall the whole thing back on, but I don't have much fender liner up in here. And if you can see right here is where my, my air filter is. So it's pretty exposed, so I really wanna get all that stuff out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this clip here, and then there's another clip here I'm going to take out, and then hopefully we'll be able to pull that down. I may have to take some of these screws off, so we're going to go ahead and get these off. In order to remove those clips under the truck, you're going to have one of them is right here, and then your other one's going to be right back there, and that's what that's being held on by, is this up in here. So you don't have to break them or anything, you just squeeze it and push it down, and that'll give you clearance. So push the clip out. Once again, this is what this clip is gonna look like, and that will allow you to be able to pull down your fender liner like this. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and remove this screw right here. That way we can gain access to all this area under here. And there's also another clip directly right here. So you're gonna have one right here, and then there's another one right here. So you just get in your engine bay and pop that down. All right, so I'm gonna kind of bend that out of the way and leave that like that. Now we've got access all under here. Now we're gonna go ahead and move up and start working on the fender. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to take masking tape, and we're going to cover, I'm gonna cover from about here all the way to the end of the fender. That way we can protect our paint, we can protect our body and all that stuff when we're grinding. And we don't end up messing anything up. All right, so Dobinson is going to give you this template here. This template is what you're gonna use to line up on your truck and know where to cut. The top of it is gonna go to the crease or to the area with the hood, and then the back of it is gonna line right up with the door. You just want it lined up on this front fender And then that will give you your area where you're gonna need to drill your holes and where you're gonna need to cut. Now, with that being said, Dobinson wants you to use a hole saw here and a hole saw here. That's why these holes are here. Rather than doing that, what I did was I just took a cup and literally like outlined the edge where I want to cut, rather than having to go and buy 2 hole saws that I'll use only this one time. So I'm gonna take some scissors, I'm gonna cut around the edge here, and then we're gonna go ahead and get this thing taped up, and then we're gonna use our pin and circle where our holes are gonna be, and we're gonna go ahead and start drilling those. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to line it up onto the truck and make sure that this back door, or make sure it's lined up with this front door, and then I'm gonna make sure the top is lined up as well. All right, and I'm gonna take a piece of tape and I'm just gonna tape it on here. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take my pin and I'm going to go ahead and mark the area I need to cut. So I'm gonna mark this circle first. So I'm marking all the holes. Okay, so now we got all of our holes. We've got one here, 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 and of course the big one there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and center punch these holes here, get those drilled, and then we're gonna cut out this big one. All right, so I've got a center punch, and I'm going to try to very lightly center punch this hole. That way I don't put a dent in my truck. So I'm gonna drill a small pilot hole first, and then I'll drill the next hole. All right, so we've got all of our holes drilled here. On the step up bit, it said 11/30 seconds is where I got that stud to fit in at. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to go ahead and actually start drilling our hole into our truck. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and grab our bracket here that is included, and we're going to install these 2 bolts into it. So it's gonna sit this way. There'll be three holes on the side. As you can see, kind of like 3 indents. And so we're gonna take the bracket and we're gonna line it up just like this. And then we're gonna go ahead and install our bolts in here. And don't tighten them down all the way. Just hand tighten them. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put some tape on our A-pillar and put the snorkel back on. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark both sides of this onto the A-pillar so that we can see where we need to drill our holes to be able to put our rivets. All right, so we're just gonna take some tape, take a couple pieces, we're gonna put it on our A-pillar. What we're gonna do is we're gonna install our snorkel on, we're gonna line up this bracket, and then we're gonna mark it. Like I said before, we're gonna mark our bracket where the edge of it should be. So we're gonna mark this way, and that way up top. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and take it off. Then we're gonna undo these bolts that we put on. All right, so we're just taking our bracket and we're marking exactly where we had marked before. We're gonna mark our circles on the inside here. So now you can see this is where we're gonna drill into our A-pillar. We're gonna drill a hole here, here, and here. And then you only wanna drill deep enough to be able to get through the actual metal, because you do have an airbag in there and you do not wanna bust that. And I'm just gonna drill 3 pilot holes, and I'm gonna just do it very carefully. There, just enough to be able to get through the actual metal. Okay, so we've got our holes drilled. The daylight today is not my friend, so I'll have to finish it up tomorrow. But, so we're gonna install our rivets like this, and then that way we'll be able to put our snorkel on. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop these rivets in here. So I'm gonna put the 3rd one in there, and then we're gonna go ahead and fit our snorkel on. All right, so it's the next day. I had to pause the stuff last night and come out today since it got dark. And if you're wondering if I riveted the bracket to the A-pillar with the tape still on it, yes, in fact I did. I was able to get it off, but make sure that you don't do that. So now that we've got the hole drilled, our snorkel fits, we've got our bracket riveted, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and open up the hood and start getting the air filter and everything hooked up, and then we're gonna completely bolt everything together. Okay, so now we're in the engine bay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna unclamp some of this stuff. So we're gonna take off this bolt here and this bolt here, and then undo this hose clamp here, and then we're gonna remove this off because there's something that we need to grind off of here. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and get this off, and then we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, so I got the air box disconnected. So I'm just gonna lift this up and pull this out. Okay, so we got this front air box off. So for the V8s, this air box right here is gonna be all the way right here. So you don't have to have any of these hoses or anything like that. What we're gonna have to do for this piece is cut off right around this neck right here. So right around this neck is where we're gonna have to cut. And that way we can hook our hose, either this one, if it's too small, we'll use the other one. But we'll use our hose and hook it onto here, and that's what we'll clamp around. All right, so I just used my grinder and I cut off the outside edge here, or that little part on the outside. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sand this down, clean this up, make sure it's totally flat. For these 3 holes down here, a buddy of mine put on his post that he had when he put on a snorkel, you can use 3/4-inch set screws and you can screw them in there. Or also what you can do is you can seal it up. You can put a sealant in here, seal it up, and that way you're not getting any water in here. But make sure you seal this up some kind of way, because it totally defeats the purpose to put the snorkel on and then have this hole here, because it's going to suck water into your engine. So for the bottom, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a sealant versus having to go out and get set screws. So I'm just going to seal that up, and that'll make this thing airtight. Okay, so I've got this end cleaned up. So it doesn't have any of the burrs or anything like that on it. So what we have to use for this anyway, they give you a step down part here. So if this hose right here is too big, which it is, to be able to hook on like that, it's way too much room, way too much space. So what they give you is a step down. So you put this in there, and that allows you to step it down to fit a smaller one on. So now your smaller one is gonna be able to fit in there. So I'm gonna hook this side on, clamp it up, and then we're gonna go ahead and get this installed back on. All right, so what I did is I took the rubber connector piece and I slid it from up under the truck to the inside and had it come out right here. And then this is our other air box that this is gonna connect into, because we did need that step down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put a hose clamp on here, fit this up, and get this hooked on there. I'm just gonna hook it on kind of loose. All right, so before we install our snorkel, we're gonna have to paint around these holes that we drilled into the truck, just so that we can prevent any rust. All right, so I've got my sealant in there. I've got everything lined up the way I want it. Now I'm gonna try to slide one end of the snorkel into that hole. Just like that. And then, so what I'm gonna do is the back side, I'm gonna tighten one of the bolts up. So I'm gonna put one bolt in the back here, just so that the snorkel doesn't pop off when I'm trying to fit the air intake on there. I'm gonna put one bolt in on the front, and you're not gonna be able to see it because I can't even see it, but you're just gonna have to feel around in there and make sure that your air intake sits completely around your snorkel. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to bend this air filter back up and get it onto the snorkel. Now, you literally cannot see anything. All right, so I got that hose in there hooked up, finally. That part is probably the hardest, most irritating part of the whole thing. It's a pretty simple process, but just that one spot, getting that hooked in there with having to put it in and then not be able to see and feel around can get frustrating. Now we're gonna go ahead and put all of our nuts in. There's one in the very back here that is probably the hardest to reach, and I feel like it's gonna be kind of a pain tightening up. Then all the other ones are fairly simple and straightforward. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all these tightened up on there, and then we'll move on into the engine bay. Okay, so we're gonna take our hose clamp. We're gonna put our hose clamp on the big hose here. Just like that. We're going to take our other intake here. I'm going to fit it in there. Just like that. All right, so we've got that hooked up. We're going to go ahead and tighten this down. And that is going to finish up the inside. It's not moving. The only thing is you just want to make sure that all this stuff is watertight, because if you ever do get water up in this area, you know, you don't want water getting in that. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put in our screws for the pillar going up. So we got everything hooked up for our A-pillar. They give us a black hose clamp, so we're just gonna slide that on here. And then we're gonna go ahead and slide our snorkel on. And then make sure it's lined up straight. All right. All right, guys, so the snorkel is finally on. I've had this thing on, as you can tell, for quite a bit now. If you guys are following me on Instagram, you know that I've had this thing on for quite a minute. I've just had so much going on, I haven't gotten around to getting this video out, but now we finally got it out. I haven't gone through anything like super crazy, but I've hit some water with it, and I can definitely tell a difference because I've almost hydro-locked my truck one time, and it wasn't fun. So this time I definitely tell a difference. It hasn't sucked any water up into it. It's been doing great. The install, I would say difficulty was probably like a 7 out of 10. Only reason being is because it is so hard to get that snorkel lined up or get that rubber boot for the intake lined up onto that snorkel when you can't see anything. But with a little bit of finagling, you can get it on there. Another thing that I want to mention is cutting out the hole into the truck. It would have been so much easier had I just followed the instructions and just used the circular saw. I thought I knew what I was doing. I saw some other people that were doing the same thing, and I was like, this is cheaper, I'm gonna do it. Don't do it. Don't do it that way. I'm telling you, it'll save you a whole bunch of time and struggle just using the hole saws, and your cuts are gonna be much, much cleaner. So personally, I would recommend using the hole saws. I did a couple things that were aside from what the instructions recommended, and it turned out I just ended up in the end doing it the way that the instructions recommended doing it. So just follow the instructions with this kit and you'll be fine. The snorkel makes this truck look so much better. I absolutely love it. If you guys are continuing to follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I've got the rear bumper on. I will be doing a video on that. I do have discount codes for Coastal Off-Road and for other products, so if you're looking for those, look for those in the description. If you guys want to see some of the things that I do to the truck before I get it uploaded onto YouTube, go follow me on Instagram, and I'll leave that down in the description as well. I have also upgraded cameras. I ended up getting a cinema line camera, so hopefully you guys can tell a difference in quality towards the later part of this video with the B-roll and stuff like that. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. The next video should be pretty exciting, and I'll see you then.